All right. Hello, everyone. We are recording today's session, but just to let everybody know that up front, welcome to this month's capacity building webinar. We are excited to have several folks from HFHI with us today to answer questions and cover any changes to the quality assurance standards, MPAR, and also any lingering questions about SOSI, and we'll talk more about what those things are in a little bit. Who you're listening to right now is April Riordan. I am the Capacity Building Director here at Habitat for Humanity of Minnesota. We have been doing this capacity building webinar series since January and wanting to provide some additional opportunities for affiliates here in Minnesota to network and be able to talk with each other, get some information out to all of you. So hosting this monthly web conference, it's really not intended to be a super formal training per se, but really more let's present some information and be able to have some dialogue and conversation about some of these topics. But we will continue this at least through the rest of 2013, and we'll be talking to all of you in the coming months to see if we should make any changes later on. But we hold them every month on the last Wednesday of each month. Next month, we will focus on Give to the Max Day and have our fundraising and Give to the Max Day guru, Jenny Ebert, here in our office to help deliver that session. Over on the right, on the, oh, you know what? I've been showing my screen and you haven't been able to see it. There we go. On the right here on the screen, it does show if you go to YouTube and look for our channel HFH-MN webinars, you can see an archive of our past webinars that we have hosted. So you can always go back and look at those, and we're recording today's session and that will be there later today. The way that this works best is if we are able to get all of you to participate, to either raise your hand and we can unmute you so that you can talk with us. There's a little hand on your control panel, the GoToWebinar control panel, that you can raise and then we can unmute you. We're a small enough group to be able to do that. So if you are participating and have on the phone, or if you have a headset or a built-in microphone, then it's nice to hear as many voices as we can. However, if you're just listening and you don't have access to that kind of audio to be able to talk, you can type questions into that questions control panel. So even if it's a comment or just something like that, that's where you can post it. Nobody else sees that unless I decide to share it with everybody. So if we're all sharing comments, it might be that I'll read your comment aloud if it's something for the whole group, or if you have a question, I'll be looking at those and I'll kind of interrupt our panelists and ask those questions for you. I think everybody who's on the webinar has been on these before, so I'm not going to go too far into some of those logistics, but you will get a copy, a link to the slides and to the recording and any other resources that come up throughout the web conference. I'll make a note of those and try to include those links or attachments in a follow-up email after the webinar. So I do have a poll, though. We'd like to find out a little bit more about how you are participating today. So the first question I have is, how many people are attending with you? So sometimes we'll have multiple staff from an affiliate or board members or volunteers gathered around one computer. So if you have more than one person with you, if you could reflect that, and that helps us get a better sense of our attendance numbers for today. Looks like most of you are participating all by yourself. I'm going to close this in just a second. Okay. Yeah, it looks like most people are participating alone, so I'm not going to bother sharing that. But then my second question, which again is helpful for us in learning about how to do this better, and helpful for our panelists in knowing if we should be looking for more of a chat, or if we should be looking to have people talk with us. So this just asks you, are you able to talk with us on the phone or through a microphone or headset? Are you planning to just chat only? Um, and there's also sometimes you're just listening, um, unable to talk or type. It might be you're in the car calling in and only have access to the audio or something like that. And then there's a couple responses of other. Okay. I'm going to close this unless there's a couple more people who want to get in and vote on that. Okay, so it looks like we do have some folks who are able to talk with us, and it might be that you don't even know that you have a built-in microphone, so I can let you know, because it looks like, from my perspective, everybody who's on right now has the ability to do that, but that's okay. And so we'll watch the chat then too, so you can enter those questions. All right, but if anybody, and that's what that looks like right now, our percentages there. If you typed other, if you wouldn't mind letting me know what you mean in the question section, you could type that in for me. And we'll also just encourage you at any time during the webinar to start typing in any questions that you have for our panelists about quality assurance standards, about MPAR, about SOSI. Any comments or questions, feel free to type those in at any time. Okay. So without further ado, I'll just introduce today's panelists. I do have further bios about them, so when they're speaking, I'll show those, and you can learn a little bit more about the background of each of these wonderful women. I can't thank them enough for being here. I sent a quick email to Kerri to say, could somebody join us to talk about the quality assurance standards, and she responded with a whole army of folks to be able to help answer your questions. So the enthusiasm, the work that they have put in to do a practice session, and also to produce slides and send those over my way, but it's pretty wonderful. So today we are joined with 4 staff from HFHI. We've got Sue Henderson with us, the Vice President of US and Canada Operations. And she's right here. We do have Kerri Reeves, our Senior Quality Assurance Monitoring Specialist. And special thanks to her, to Kerri, for organizing all of this crew. And Heather Murray is with us, Director of the Risk Prevention and Response Unit. And then we also have Sonia Lee, who's the Director of Affiliate Financial Services. So really glad to have everybody with us. And I'm just going to jump over here to some of our objectives. So really just looking at the quality assurance checklist, overview, any changes to it, including the MPAR updates, really understanding the latest about SOSI. But this third bullet here, really this could happen throughout the entire webinar, really should be driven by your questions. We have been fielding those from our end, but if you type those in or raise your hand or share those questions again at any time, and our panelists will be able to tell us any of the kind of frequently asked questions or things that they're hearing from the field as well. So I think I will hand it over, and I think Heather is going to talk with us first about the quality assurance checklist.
Well, thank you, April, and hello, everyone. I just want to, on behalf of HFHI, just thank you for your time and participation in this webinar. We're really excited to be here. And the piece that I'm going to talk about today is something that I'm sure all of you are aware of. We've been rolling out the quality assurance checklist for 5 years now. So I will do a quick overview of the QA program and the quality assurance checklist, and basically go over some of the changes that have been made this fiscal year. If we move to this slide and take a look at some of the talking points here, many of you are aware that the Quality Assurance Checklist is an annual self-assessment tool. And basically it's used to monitor and review affiliate compliance with the Quality Assurance Checklist. And this is composed of 58 minimum standards. And they typically fit into 8 key areas of operation. And each question is directly tied to a policy in our U.S. policy handbook. It links also to our 6 core tenets and really is a way for an affiliate to review their overall compliance with the standards and their overall effectiveness in their operation. The main thing is that you would want to include your staff and key volunteers in reviewing the minimum requirements, because it should be an active document so that you can review areas of strength, areas that may need improvement, and benchmark where your affiliate is against HFHI's minimum standards. This particular year, we've done some changes. So if we can move to the next slide, I can talk a little bit about our rollout process. Typically, every year on an annual basis, affiliates receive an email, and it's usually sent out from Larry Gluth, our Senior Vice President for U.S. and Canada, with a link to the QA checklist. This year, we wanted to ensure that we aligned with the 2014 through 18 strategic plan, and we delayed actually our rollout, which always went out in January of each calendar year, and we moved it to this fiscal year 14. So the QA checklist for this year now is on a fiscal year covering the period of July 1, 2013 through June 30th, 2014. It is online. By now, all affiliates should have received it. So if you have not, please let the Affiliate Support Center know or let us know, and we'll ensure that you have received your copy. And basically, the online checklist identifies all of the 58 standards that I was talking about. The affiliates would go through and click on electronically whether or not they meet the standard or if they're adhering. If not, there would be some drop-down boxes to identify why they're not meeting the standard, and it's submitted with the annual covenant online through My Habitat. Important to note that this is one of our good standing requirements as well, so any delay in submitting the documents would affect your good standing status, and the due date is October 31st of this year. So there's still quite a bit of time to submit, but following the due date, after that time, it would affect your good standing status. Well, let's talk a little bit about what stays the same in the QA checklist. And the basic thing is that affiliates need to have a My Habitat account. Very basic, because everything is online. They need to be able to access the link to the letter and to the document. New this year, in terms of the changes, are a number of standards. But what also stays the same is that you'll be able to save your progress. You'll also be able to get a confirmation letting you know that your QA has been submitted and it's confirmed that we have received it. There have been some differences, and in the next slide we'll just kind of go over what the differences are. The things that are new typically are the fact that, number one, we've launched it in July 2013, and that it's important for us to know that a new section has been added. So, April, if you move on to the next slide, we'll talk about the couple standards and what's been added.
There we go. Sorry, I was responding to a question.
Oh, okay. Do you want to hold here for the question, or do you want me to move forward?
No, I think we're okay.
Okay. So, like I said, instead of instead of January of this year, we moved it to July. One of the key changes has been Section 8. There's a whole new section, and that's something that Sonia is going to talk about shortly. And Section 8 actually has the whole section on mortgage procedures and regulations and MPAR, and that relates to origination and servicing of mortgage loans. Standard 7 has to do with some word changes in terms of the amount of due diligence in family selection. And Standard 7 is reading, basically the affiliate will perform appropriate due diligence in determining the ability to pay and credit worthiness of home buyers, and it kind of goes through exactly what that due diligence is regarding income verification, credit reporting, etc. The other changes are very minor. It's really just small wording changes, alignment with, the other language in the QA section. But what I'd like for us to focus on is that new Section 8, because that is a brand new standard that affiliates are needing to adhere to. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Sonia to talk further about that.
Thank you, Heather. Any questions for Heather at this point?
Not yet, just some more individual questions.
Okay, perfect. Just, we can hold on this slide, but just before we go on, Heather touched on standard number 7, and although it is in the homeowner selection of service delivery section of the QAC and the new alignment of the QAC, effective January 2014, we need to be aware of this, and we need to ensure that it's followed. The new ability to repay rule, which is coming out from CFPB, requires us to have written policies for determining the credit worthiness of our borrowers. So we've got to make sure that we have these policies in place and that they're followed consistently. All right, next slide, please, April.
Mm-hmm.
So of this new section, there are 8 standards in what we call now the mortgage procedures and regulations section. 5 have been moved from other sections, and 3 are new as a result of a law change or an HFHI priority. Standard number 51 was moved from previously the development section. It was question number 45, and it has to do with the logo for the HUD housing, equal housing logo. If you look at the AOM for the family selection guide, it outlines when this logo should be used, and to get an electronic copy of this logo to affix to your outreach material, you can get a copy of it from the HUD site. Standard number 52, this is also something that was originally there in the homeownership section, question number 5. The standard was reworded to be clearer and to expand to include the other legal instruments of equity protection. So those are the second mortgage, shared appreciation, and deed restrictions. Standard 53 is also moved from the homeownership section. The verbiage was updated to include the authorized financing options that are outlined in policy number 29. So those are zero equivalent mortgages, the ZEMs, and the USDA 502s. Standard number 54 was formerly in the financial management and legal section, standard number 33. There were several components that made up that one large standard, and we felt that each of them merited their own standard because of the risks associated with each of them. So this is how this particular standard came to be. Servicing is crucial to ensuring that you get your mortgage receivables and to keep your affiliate going. So we wanted to pull this out into its own standard to ensure that either someone in your affiliate is servicing the loans, or you've contracted out to a third-party servicer to have that your loans serviced. And just in terms of servicing, just wanted to bring to your attention, I know a lot of times when we talk about servicing, we think it's really just mortgage receivables, but it's really, it's a bigger deal than that. It also talks about the escrow disbursements, reaching out to the taxing authorities each year to determine what the taxes is, if there's going to be an increase, disbursement not only to the taxing authorities but also insurance companies, doing an annual escrow analysis. And these things are really key because with the new servicing rules that are coming out in January, all these things have to be done by affiliates, whether by your third-party servicer or by the affiliates themselves if they're in-house servicing. All right, moving on to standard number 55. 55 is a new standard, and it has to do with providing your board with a report on mortgage payments. We talked about in the previous standards proper servicing, making sure that somebody's doing servicing for you, and I touched on all the key things to mortgage servicing. It's really important for your board to have a good handle on what's going on so that they can manage the affiliate appropriately or as needed to be. They won't know if there's a problem unless they're told of a problem. So we feel that the best way to do that is to provide them with a report dedicated to just the mortgage payment status. And we've outlined some things that need to be in that report. Your typical financial statements don't drill down to the point of showing the mortgage receivable, so it won't identify if you have a delinquency issue or not. And your board members really need to know if there is an issue so they can put an action plan in place. Standard 56, also from the Finance and Legal section, it was part of that big overall standard number 33. This standard was enhanced to strengthen it by adding that not only the annual escrow analysis, but also your escrow accounts have to be held separately and cannot be used for anything other than the reason that the funds were collected for the borrower. So we can't mix and mingle the homeowner's escrow accounts. We need to make sure that it is deposited into a separate account, in an escrow account, and preferably an FDIC insured account, and that it's managed appropriately. The last two standards are as a result of the new anti-money laundering laws that affiliates must comply with, and that became effective last August. And all affiliates, regardless of size or whether you're an all-volunteer or all-paid or mixed staff, all affiliates must comply. The standard number 57 has to do with ensuring that the affiliates have a suspicious activity reporting policy for filing requirements. So the affiliate, as part of their AML regime within their organization, they need to make sure that they have someone that's responsible for filing suspicious activities, someone in your organization, preferably the AML compliance officer, that anyone that may encounter anything that they deem to be suspicious or any concerns that they have or questions that person, usually the compliance officer, that can be directed to that, they can direct the questions to that person. That person generally would be the one that's filing the suspicious activity reports as well to FinCEN. You are required to go into FinCEN, log in, and to get a number which allows you to be able to report any activity that you feel is suspicious going forward. If you haven't already done that, it's good for you to do that, so if anything comes up, you're ready to do your reporting. And the last standard is number 58, and that's also with AML, has to do with implementing an anti-money laundering program. The money laundering program has 4 components. You must have policies and procedures in place. They must be board approved. You have to have an AML compliance officer. You have to have ongoing training and also an independent audit to validate that your compliance program is effective and will work. Just going back to the training section, I just want to plug, or the training component piece of the AML, just want to plug the online course that's available. HFHI has done a lot of work to working with ABA to put together several courses, and AML is one of them, that highlights that they're targeted to the affiliates, to the Habitat affiliates. So we use the Habitat language, and we have examples that that are in line with what we do with Habitat. So if you haven't already signed up for the course or taken the course, please send me an email and we can sign you up. The next courses will be available. The next opening will be in September, and they're online courses. They can be taken at any time. You just need to have a laptop, desktop, and internet connection, and you can take these courses.
Sonia, this is April. Is there they should just contact you, or is there a link or anything available on My Habitat that we could direct people to?
They can contact me for now because they have to be enrolled.
Okay.
First they'll be enrolled, and then subsequent information will go out from there. This morning there was an email that went out from U.S. Office introducing the full launch. We had targeted AML exclusively just by itself for the last, I would say, about 6 weeks. We had just opened AML for everyone, but starting mid-September, all the courses. So we've got courses on ECOA, Equal Credit Opportunity, on RESPA. We have it on Truth in Lending, Fair Housing, Flood Insurance. There are 11 courses that are now available to have it. Will be available September 18th to all Habitat affiliates. There is no charge for taking it. They just need to be enrolled. The enrollment comes through me, and then they'll can select their courses and go on. So please take advantage of those courses. The courses will help you to get prepared. They get prepared for the new laws that are coming into effect in January. They talk about the current laws and also the coming laws. So it's good to get yourself ready to go come January. And also in January, when the changes actually occur, the laws actually go into effect, the courses will be updated to reflect those changes. So please make use of this resource. It's free to all the affiliates.
I do have a couple questions and comments to share. So there's a question from Jerry says, our executive committee reviews payments monthly and is aware of delinquencies if we have any. The board receives a monthly statement of payments as part of our financial statement packets. Are we meeting that requirement for number 55?
No, is it a separate? It sounds like they have drilled down. They're providing a report which highlights the mortgage payments. At least that's what I got from the statement. So they're doing a good job. One of the things that we do recommend is that we have some comparisons year over year, month over month, so you can see the trending. If that's all that's missing from that report, that's the only thing that we would suggest that you add. Okay.
And then it also just sounds like some people have not received the email from this morning, or the also just the email with the QA thing, so we might want to double check some of that.
This is Heather. There wouldn't have been an email regarding the QAC from this morning.
Oh, no, not from this morning, but when we asked that earlier, it's about that they should have received something from Larry in July. Okay. So we do, I mean, it's not everybody. Some people have gotten it, but there's a couple who haven't, and then the same people didn't get the message this morning about the training. So offline later, we can kind of follow up and just make sure we've got the right email address and that sort of thing.
I think in regard to that, at some of the affiliates, it may just go to the board members or some of the board members, and then with the hope that that's cascaded.
Okay.
I'll look online to see who's received the QAC, but we can follow up with you on that.
Yep, that would be great. And I'm sure the affiliates who are on here who haven't gotten it it's great that they're on here, and then they can follow up then too. But so we have another question about what is the independent audit they refer to?
The independent audit should be done. It depends on what your policy dictates, and that would be driven by your risk assessment, your AML risk assessment. That should have been really the first thing that's completed in the whole AML regime. The independent review needs to be done by someone that has a good awareness of AML and can determine whether your program is effective or not. The AML compliance officer, the designated AML compliance officer for the affiliate cannot be the person doing it. What I can recommend is if you have a local bank, if there's someone in their compliance department that could donate some time to do that, or if there's someone on your board with a compliance banking background, that they can do that for you. Or if you have anybody in your affiliate that has a good, sound knowledge of AML, because the determining factor, that person has to be able to look at your program and determine whether your program is effective or not.
And Sonia, do they just produce a certificate? I mean, is there a?
It does say a report. It says a report, but I mean, you can. In the report, I would include all the things that were looked at, the date it was looked at, and any outcomes, and if there are going to be any corrective actions or any actions that needs to be taken to improve a situation or to change something. I would have that all documented, and as the actions are implemented, I would document it and also the outcome of what those are.
Right. We'll send the link again. It was in the follow-up email, but we'll send it again. And I know that some of the affiliates who didn't get the quality assurance checklist, they know they can get it from My Habitat, and we'll send that link again too. But still, probably want to figure out why they're not getting the email. Okay.
Yeah,
great.
That's for sure.
I don't see any other questions yet about QA or MPAR, but we can always come back to that. So if you have questions, type those in or raise your hand, and we will get to those. But maybe we can move on and just talk a little bit, give an update on SOSI. And it's kind of a potpourri of topics here, but we'll hear from Sue, and then that will people will think of other questions in the meantime.
Okay, April, thanks very much. Sound quality on me is okay?
Yep, you sound great.
So, well, hello to everyone, and it's great to be with you again. And I want to thank April for hosting these events. It just sounds like a really, really terrific idea, and I know it's very well attended. So thank you, April, for being very, very organized with these conferences and for asking us to participate. I also want to thank the affiliates for all the great work that you're doing in Minnesota. We're rolling up numbers for the last fiscal year now, so I know you guys all did great. I'll be anxious to take a look at the specifics when they're all together. So on SOSI, we talked, I guess it was with this group, I'm going to say maybe 6 to 8 weeks ago, to talk a little bit about SOSI, and I think today is really more of an opportunity for a recap to tell you where we are in the process right now, and to answer any questions that you may have developed or gotten from your board since the last time we talked. So April has loaded on the slideshow a short presentation that we actually put on My Habitat. And the intended use for that was for you as an executive director to talk to your board about SOSI. So I hope that that's been a helpful resource for you. It was put together by our communications department, and it goes through again the rationale for SOSI and the rollout specifics. And I think for today, I don't know that I'll go through this slide by slide. Again, happy to answer any questions around it, but I did want to reinforce a couple of points. One is that we are in the very last phase now of the comment period on SOSI. And again, April, when did I talk to this group last?
It was actually back in March. It was right after the announcement. We kind of got on it pretty quickly.
Oh, you sure did. I didn't realize it had been that long ago. So let me update you on what's happened since March. So after March, HFHI staff began to meet with our policy committee. I say our policy committee. It's a committee made up primarily of affiliate leadership. It's headed this year and for the past few years by Janice Jensen, who's the executive director of Habitat East Bay, Silicon Valley. And so we worked through the concept of SOSI and ended up memorializing that in a draft policy. We then took that policy to U.S. Council, which is a group of, I think we have 17 or 18 affiliate leaders on the council right now. And we worked through the policy. The U.S. Council made some changes to the policy, and we then posted it for affiliate comment on June 17th. So it's available on My Habitat. If you go to the My Habitat homepage and then type in SOSI, it'll take you to the SOSI webpage, and it should be very easy there for you to click on a link and review the policy if you haven't already, and then also provide us with any feedback that you may have on the policy, good or bad. And so we, for most policies in the U.S., the required comment period is 45 days, and because of the significance of this policy and the significant cultural change that it represents, we actually provided additional time for that comment period, so it will end up being roughly 75 days. And the comment period does end on September 3rd, which is next Tuesday. So if you haven't had an opportunity to comment and would like to, please do so. We are looking at all of those comments and reviewing them with the policy committee. We give the comments to the policy committee members verbatim. We reviewed them actually 2 or 3 weeks ago. And we will do that again on September 12th with policy committee with all of the final comments. And then our expectation is that the policy committee would again endorse the policy as a final policy. There may be some adjustments that are made based on the comments received. In all honesty, we haven't really received any comments that we hadn't grappled with before. So my expectation is that the policy would be endorsed in largely the form that it's in right now. And then the policy would go to our board of directors, the HFHI board of directors, which we call our IBOD, our International Board of Directors, at our November meeting and for final approval. So that's sort of the policy track. And April, should I pause for questions? The other things I want to talk about are how we're confirming geographic service areas, and then just on logistics for payment. But I'll pause just for a second if there are any questions around this policy review, drafting, approval process.
I don't have any questions posted yet about SOSI. We'll have some questions later about MPAR a little bit, but I think some of the things that are new since we met last time were the intermediate size, and maybe some changes to the payment schedule.
Yes, we should definitely talk about that. So April has posted the slide that goes through the now 5 size categories, and you can see that we added, and April, you're right, that was after the March call. We added what I call the speed bump, and that's the intermediate category, because after looking at this and receiving input from affiliates, we realized that the jump from small to medium in terms of the amount of the fee was really a lot for smaller affiliates. So we included that intermediate group at a population of 50,000 to just under 100,000 at an annual fee of $5,000.
And we do have a question about how the population is based and the fee. Will the SOSI fee be based on census data?
Yes, and if we could, that was going to be my next big topic of discussion around GSA size and population. Right. So I'll come back to that in just a second. But April, if you could go to the slide, maybe the next one or the one after, this one is great. And the other change that has been formalized since March, I think we were thinking about it in March and formalized it, is that the payment of SOSI will be phased in. So the slide we looked at just a second ago showed the annual amount of the SOSI fee for the 5 size buckets. And we got really strong input from our U.S. Council that because this was adopted, frankly, in a very short period of time, that affiliates should be given an opportunity to budget for it, to get used to paying it. And because of that, there'll be a phase-in over the next, through 2015. So the first payment that will be at that full amount will be July 1 of 2015. So just to walk through this payment schedule, there will be a payment that's due, and we'll talk about invoicing in just a few minutes. But the first payment will be invoiced in January of next year. It'll be for the second half of fiscal 2014. And it will be calculated in the amount of a third of the annual fee. So it's a little bit confusing, but if you think about it, if it's a small affiliate and the full annual fee would be $1,500, then the check the invoice that comes out in January of next year will be for $500. So 1/3 of the full annual amount. Starting in July of next year, of 2014, payments will be due annually, but for the full fiscal year in advance. So the payment due in July of 2014 will be for all of 2014, but continuing with this phase-in schedule, it'll be at 2/3 of the full amount. So again, if we think about the small affiliate and the annual fee being $1,500 at the full rate, then the payment that's due in July of 2014 will be for $1,000. And that'll take the affiliate through all the way to the next fiscal year. And that payment that's invoiced in July of 2015 will be the first one that's at the full rate.
Okay.
Does that make sense, April?
Yeah, and we do have a question about, so what will happen to an affiliate if they don't pay SOSI? Will they still be able to retain use of the Habitat for Humanity name and logo and continue to build in their community?
Yes, they will be able to continue as long as they're otherwise in good standing, or actually otherwise running an effective affordable housing practice, I think is the best way to describe it. And Heather will probably correct me if I'm not getting all this exactly right. But if SOSI is not paid, and let's just think through the invoice that's going to go out in January of next year. So the invoice will go out in early January, will be payable by the end of January. The affiliate would get a late notice at the beginning of February and the beginning of March. And then if that bill has not been paid by March 31st, so basically 90 days after the invoice went out, then the affiliate, it will be a good standing event. So the affiliate will no longer be in good standing, and they will not be eligible to participate in programs or receive gift in kind or receive any sort of funding through HFHI. So it's really the same impact that would occur if the affiliate had another good standing issue that wasn't cured. So for example, you didn't turn in your QAC, you didn't turn in your house production report, didn't file a 990, the other items, and that's on a complete list, but this, excuse me, will become a good standing element. Now, if the affiliate continues in that status, Heather, you may want to pick up here. You're a little bit more familiar with the process,
Sure.
The probation process after that.
Sure. So, as Sue mentioned, good standing overall, many of you are familiar that affiliates can go in and out of good standing with all of those different elements. Tithes is another one, and so once you've paid the tithe, you return back into a good standing status, as an example. The same thing will come about with SOSI. The piece here that one needs to know is once the invoice is due by January 31st. As Sue mentioned, there'll be a 30-day and a 60-day reminder. At the end of 60 days, which is that March 31st deadline, affiliates will not be in good standing until such time that they rectify that particular deficiency. So what that means is until they've paid. Now they'll still be eligible for use of the name and to be able to use that name, but all of the services, such as GIK, National Service, all of that will not be available to that particular affiliate.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, I just have a question from somebody who I think needs to get off the webinar a little early, and it's kind of related to all of this. So I just want to get it in there before she has to go. But it's a comment from their executive committee, an affiliate's executive committee. They must have discussed it, and so this is the comment. It says, it seems they are assessing a fee for something that has not been officially passed. It is still under comment. So in January, are they collecting for July 2014 in increments? The executive committee is confused, as is this executive director. Kind of basically, which budget term are we hitting this fiscal year, 12-13 or 13-14? So I don't know if that's more confusing to ask that out loud, or if there's any way you can respond to that.
No, I think I've got it, and so we're in the approval comment period now. I guess finalizing period right now, but the invoices will not be sent out until the thing is passed. I mean, we're assuming that it'll be endorsed again by U.S. Council. We're assuming that our board of directors, which has been very supportive of this, and in fact really encouraged us to look at long-term sustainability. So we're assuming that they'll approve it. So obviously, we have to plan for the billing process. We couldn't just go through the approval process and then say, okay, now let's figure out what the billing process is going to look like. So we have been working on that. But no, by the time the invoices go out in January, the policy will have been formally approved. And in response to the budgeting question, well, this is an expense. This first payment is an expense that, depending on whether the affiliate is on a fiscal year basis or a calendar year basis, that will impact the budget year that it hits. Again, part of the reason for this phase-in, so that payment due in January of 2014 is smaller, is our directive from U.S. Council that we really needed to give affiliates an opportunity to plan for the payment of the fee.
Yeah, I think it's just I think because most of our affiliates are on a fiscal year calendar, so they did their budget even before this was passed, so it's kind of tricky to figure out how to work that in. Even the small amount, even the 1/3 is a lot for some of the affiliates.
I understood.
Yep. I don't see any other questions about SOSI, but Sue, maybe there's just, if you want to address any of these other Q&A or other things that you're hearing, but I do have a couple MPAR questions that we can come back to.
Sure. So let me just hit a few more SOSI issues. Another strong directive from U.S. Council, and I really want to commend the work of U.S. Council on the SOSI policy. They pushed us. They asked lots of questions. They challenged us, and again, just lots of extra work and thought went into this. When we originally proposed the fee, we said, okay, we'll have it set for 2 or 3 years, and then we'll just have normal inflation, cost of living increases based on the CPI index, and that's what we suggested. U.S. Council came back and said, no, what we want to do is have this be set in stone through June 30 of 2019, so 5.5 years, and we have no experience with collecting a fee right now. We're not sure of unintended consequences that we couldn't predict, and that will give us an opportunity to look at this fee, see how it's impacting our work in the U.S. Is it the right formula, or do we need to think about moving to a different formula? And so when you read the policy, you'll see that concept is reflected in the language of the policy. One more thing, I guess we've already talked about invoicing, so I don't need to talk about that, but let me talk just for a second about GSAs, and I'll address the question that was asked earlier about how the population is determined. So your GSA, your geographic service area, was basically historically something that you would have established or designated at the time you became affiliated with Habitat. And that might have been before 2007, so pre-USAA, and it might have been afterwards. If it was before the USAA, then HFHI, in the course of executing those agreements, made an attempt to clarify the service areas. Some of your USAAs may have the service areas specifically set forth in the agreement. For others of you, it may have been clarified afterwards in perhaps an email exchange or multiple exchanges with HFHI. But the service area is something that the affiliate really established and designated at the time it affiliated. And HFHI has signed off on those. You know, honestly, unless there was a conflict with an adjoining service area, we would have said, fine, great, that's your service area. So as part of this process, because service areas, in all honesty, haven't really mattered that much as long as you got along with your neighbors and you weren't having conflicts over who had a particular area in your community. Service areas haven't been that critical. So when we've taken this SOSI process as an opportunity to really confirm those service areas, so we've gone back into the records, looked at the USAAs, looked at the email trails back and forth around confirmation of service areas, and we are nearly through that process now. And so starting next month, right, Heather, you'll get an email from each affiliate, will receive an email from HFHI saying, these are our records of your service areas. This is what we have on record for your service area. And we then tied those service areas to census information that's readily available at US, I think it's census.gov.
Yes, this is 2010.
2010 census data. And from that, we have come up with a population size. And so when you receive this notice, it will also tell you which of the 5 size buckets that, based on our calculations, your affiliate falls into.
Okay. No other questions yet, but feel free, everybody, if you have questions, further questions about SOSI, just feel free to type them in. We do have a little more time, but I do have a couple questions about MPAR that I can jump back to, if that's okay, Sonia.
Yep, that's fine.
All right, so Parker asked, but we don't think there is much opportunity or likelihood in our affiliate for a violation of AML. What would be a realistic example of a likely violation? I think that's a great question. Just maybe people are having trouble thinking of what that even could be.
There are a couple things. There's a little bit of misnomer around anti-money laundering, and it's not just, you know, drug trafficking or, you know, the typical things that we think around money laundering and, you know, terrorist financing. One of the reasons why residential mortgage lenders and originators, and that's what we're considered as under FinCEN, was brought into the law is because of mortgage fraud. So we can experience the same types of mortgage frauds as any other financial institution. So we have to ensure that people are providing correct information. Their social security numbers are accurate. There actually was assigned to them. That there's no fraudulent identification that's being provided. Some of the other things, just on the money laundering side, if you will. For instance, a partner family has been paying their payment of $250 a month, and over the last 5 months, they've been paying $1,000 a month. You know, the affiliates love to get the extra payment, but you need to do some work. You need to find out what's changed. You were making your $250, all of a sudden now your payments increased significantly, but your circumstances haven't changed. So what's been the difference? That, to me, is a suspicious transaction or suspicious activity. It's something that I would flag, further investigate, and probably report. Also, if someone pays off their loan, again, nothing has changed. They didn't sell the house. Somehow they came into funds. You know, you don't know of an inheritance or, you know, any way of them getting this money. There are many ways of, you know, backdoor things happening. We just need to be cautious. and we need to ensure that we have a good process in our accounts or mortgage receivables, whether you're third-party serviced or not, to make sure that you're monitoring the payments that are coming in. As I said, we'd love to get those payments in because there are a lot of times we know we don't get those payments in, but we need to make sure that the payments are in line with what's been agreed to and it's typical for that family to be paying.
And Tanya, that's a great explanation. This is Sue, and I just want to add that at HFHI, we argued tooth and nail with the federal government, with the FinCEN department, that we should have an exemption. That the likelihood of, Sonia, you're correct that we certainly need to verify identities and Social Security numbers and all of that, but the likelihood of there being any sort of a laundering type transaction in a habitat transaction where typically there's no cash is just minuscule. We went to the MAT and were unsuccessful, and I was on a couple of those calls, and I can just tell you that these people were completely humorless, and it was clear that they just weren't going to grant any exemptions, and that if we were mortgage originators, then we had to do this, and what was the big deal? So I just do want to stress that we tried and tried and tried using the same arguments that I'm sure many of you are thinking of right now, and we were unsuccessful.
Correct.
So a follow-up question to go with that would be, so where do we log in to get a number to report suspicious activity?
If you've been on the AML site, you can get it on My Habitat. There is a link on the AML homepage that will take you, or you can just type in FinCEN, FINCEN, and you will be directed there.
FINCEN, sorry. Was that
yes,
right?
FINCEN.
Okay.
FinCEN.
There's another question related. Another question related to that is we have several homeowners who pay in advance when they get their annual tax refund. Is this a reportable activity? It seems like maybe since you kind of know where that's coming from, probably not. But
I would agree. It's not a reportable activity. You know that this is, you know exactly where the funds are coming from. It's when you can't explain it. There is no rhyme or reason to the increase in payment or a change in the way payments are being made that would drive a suspicious activity. But also looking on the front end on the origination piece, as I mentioned before, ensuring that your families are who they say they are, verifying their Social Security number, verifying their driver's license, making sure that the person is in fact who they are, so that we're not making false loans.
Does Habitat International have a way to verify Social Security numbers, or is that just sort of on the individual affiliate to do that kind of verification? Sometimes those services cost money. Yeah.
It's on the individual affiliate. If an affiliate has someone doing their background checks right now, that would be a good place to start to run the Social Security number. If some affiliates, if they have an origination system, that usually is interfaced with a credit bureau as well as the authority to pull the information on the social insurance number. Usually the credit report will give you
background
some
checks usually don't check Social Security numbers, so that would be good to know on that end. And those services to check Social Security numbers are pretty expensive, so if somebody's just checking a couple a year, that might.
If you've got a provider that's doing your background check,
then they probably do it. Okay.
Yes.
Great.
They can also include your OFAC check, just for.
Great. Okay, we've got a comment. Somebody has used rental history reports for this information. Thanks, Pat. That's helpful. We've used rental history reports for that information. Okay, I'm gonna jump ahead. We have a few resources just to review and share with everybody, but feel free to submit some more questions if you have that. But Kerri, I wanted to give you a chance to share and talk about some of these slides and the resources that are available to our affiliates.
Sure. Thanks, April. And thanks, everyone, for being on the call today. We really appreciate your time. And just wanted to let you know, last year, Minnesota was one of the states that submitted, everyone in the state, all affiliates submitted their quality assurance checklist. So that's pretty cool. We appreciate that. Just wanted to update you on, since there's been so many changes and updates, we've been doing our best to keep things updated on my habitat for you all. There's a new QA homepage and the Quality Assurance Checklist Affiliate Support Guide, which is a pretty comprehensive support guide. And if you're curious or you want to share with your board, there's some links and supporting links and rationale for each and every question on the Quality Assurance Checklist, including great links to all the new MPAR supporting resources that Sonia has discussed. So just wanted to make sure you're aware that that's out there. You can also find a link to the online Quality Assurance Checklist on the main Quality Assurance page. So if you're one of those affiliates that didn't receive it directly to you and you need to go in and look at it, there's a link to complete the checklist on the QA homepage. There's also a preview copy of the checklist that you can share with your board. The slide that is now up there is a screenshot. We've also reorganized the quality assurance resources on My Habitat, and so it's broken down now by library. So it's a pretty comprehensive library. We've added Section 8, and we included all 8 sections of the library. So you can get that off the main QA page. It's organized by section, and it's pretty cool. You can make sure and get resources for each and every question. So if you're struggling to locate a policy or you're not sure what a particular question means, you can come to the library and it will offer additional information. So we hope you'll find that helpful. The next slide is the SOSI page that Sue was discussing earlier. And this is where you can check and you can find the PowerPoint that we shared with you. Also, there is on step 3 towards the bottom of the SOSI page, there's a link to submit your comments, and that'll take you to a Survey Monkey page, which will prompt you for some questions, and you can report your feedback. And I think that's open through September 3rd, so you still have some time to go ahead and do that if you'd like. And finally, on the next slide, Sonia and her team have been really busy. We have a great MPAR resources page. April, if you went, there you go. So if you go to the MPAR homepage, there's the anti-money laundering page that she already talked about. There's various, they're really working hard to get you some training set up as well. So if you have a moment or if you're feeling like you want more information after the call, you're welcome to contact any of us and we can help you. If you have any specific questions on the checklist, I'm always available, and Heather and I can route you if you have any really specific questions that require additional expertise. But I encourage you to check out My Habitat because we've done a lot of work to get the financial resources, the SOSI resources, and the QA resources up to speed. And if you have trouble finding anything or you need additional help, my contact information is at the end of the program, and I'd love to hear from you on what works and what you need help with. So thanks again for your time, and if you have any questions on those resources, I'm happy to help.
No, and that's great. Thank you so much to Sue and Heather and Kerri and Sonia and to all of our affiliates who are participating today and asking such great questions. I don't see any more questions right now. So if you have any, we can certainly keep the webinar live for a little bit, or we can just wrap up here. You will get a short survey as you exit the web conference, just to give us some feedback about how useful this was for you. I've made some note of some things and links to send, but you will get a link to the slide. So there's some of those resources and things that Kerri just shared. You'll be able to link directly to those and have all of that information. But if there are no further questions, I'll just say thank you again to everyone for joining us, and I can go ahead and I'll stop the recording anyway, and then if we have further questions, I'll stay on for a couple minutes to see if anybody wants to ask those kind of offline. But thanks everybody. Thank you. These are the 4 of you in your room there in Atlanta. Thanks so much.
April.